Dr. Valen here. I spent 43 years recording the Valari without sentiment. I watched civilizations like weather patterns to note, not storms to join. Then humans arrived, and everything I believed about duty and detachment broke. We were dying. A weaponized fungus from an ancient war, what we called a blight, had hollowed our farms and forests. The Concorde quarantined our system. No ship left without risking the spores spreading. 15% of our remaining people had already chosen to sleep. They stopped eating, stopped trying. I listed their names the same way I listed eclipses. Precise, unemotional. That was until the day the human fleet dropped into orbit above Farah. They did not come with speeches. Their leader, Helen Calderon, listened politely to our ceremonial verses for 93 seconds, then cut through it with blunt questions about food, water, and power. Behind her stood Sergeant Matteo Serrano, not tall, but broad, scarred across his skin like a map of past violence, eyes that never stopped measuring. He moved like someone who knew how to survive a world built to kill. They were messier than we were. They were louder. They were the sort of people our culture warned us about, violent, chaotic, unrefined. And they did something our philosophers had stopped believing possible. They acted. They crawled into danger, cussed in 3 languages while fixing machines, taught kids to plant in ruined soil, and turned our refined systems into cobbled, working solutions. Grandmother Eunice Toto is the clearest example. She smelled of earth and hummed the way people hum when songs are survival tools. I took her to the North Valley, a 200-kilometer graveyard of gray dust. She knelt, rubbed the dirt between her fingers, tasted it, then spat into a sampler and said, "Good mineral base. pH too high, negligible organics, but fixable." She suggested mushrooms that could break down toxins and rebuild the soil. We had been trying to fight the blight head-on. She taught us to go sideways, find the path the blight doesn't expect, and work it. 15 days after their arrival, the archive collapsed. The building held 3 millennia of our history, and hidden inside, the genetic seed vault the Kitten Empire had demanded as tribute. A school group was touring the sensory exhibits. I heard the thunderous collapse from 6 blocks away. Dust still fell when I arrived. Children's keening cut through the air like a blade. Panic is a contagion. Our elders chanted acceptance. Young Valari clawed at rubble and only made things worse. Serrano arrived and did not panic. He ordered with a voice that went straight to the spine. Establish a perimeter. Find portable lights. Bring med supplies. Move the debris hand to hand. He found a gap barely big enough for a child and crawled inside. He followed the cries into the dark. I watched him spend 4 hours calm as a machine inside collapsing stone. He kept a dozen terrified children singing to him in a language he didn't speak. He emerged last, carrying the smallest of them, Nissa, who clung to him like gravity. His uniform was torn, his hands bled, dust made his hair gray, and he hummed a lullaby back to them. Later, when I asked why he'd risk his life, he simply said, "Panic kills. You take fear, you box it, and you get to work." That answer changed me. Our sages teach preservation of self as virtue. He said, no one gets left behind. Their calculus was simple and brutal, his life against theirs. He accepted the trade. He did not pose. He acted. A week later, the herald arrived, a Kitten Empire herald whose presence made every membrane in the assembly tension. Black feathers that drank light, backward swept bone horns, golden eyes that never blinked. It announced the terms: tribute, seed vaults, 1,000 polar labors, or the Kitten Empire would return with force. When Commander Calderon stepped forward flanked by Serrano, they told the herald, blunt as an axe, that the Valari were under human protection. Earth holds grudges, she said. The herald left. It would return. The assembly fractured. Half the elders urged capitulation. Grandmother Una, dirt still under her fingernails, spoke for those who had nothing left to lose but dignity. my son said before he left. I'd rather die to keep others safe than live knowing I didn't try. Leon, once a delicate archivist, stood and said we were already dying. Better to die as Valari than as vassals. I stood with them. I who had recorded decline without involvement. I who had taught acceptance as a discipline. I said I wanted to fall beside friends, not kneel before masters. We chose to fight. The humans taught us how to make the city a weapon without losing its soul. They created kill zones, bottlenecks, and traps. Una taught neighborhoods to grow food in broken buildings. Dr. Kenji Ibrahim brought stacks of human literature that read like survival manuals for our broken era. Chief Engineer Ortega fixed our water treatment systems with blows and curses. They taught us to be useful. We taught them ritual and patience. We became different people in the space of days. 9 days later, the Kitten ground forces came. 300 warriors led by Prime Hunter. They expected the easy prize of a dying planet. They found dead streets, then noise, distress calls in their own tongue, sound of predator hunts, screaming faked by our systems. Their formation faltered. Serrano's volunteers and 1,000 Valari harassed, delayed, and misdirected. When Kitten Squad chased apparent refugees into the archive, we detonated charges at structural points. The archive, the repository of our past and the Kitten's prize, collapsed inward, taking 20 Kitten warriors with it and the objective they had come to claim. We had amputated our history to save our future. It was a butcher's choice. The Prime Hunter led a direct assault on the command center. The fighting inside was close, ugly, and intimate. Elder Thymore swung a heavy data slate at a Kitten warrior. Una felt a creature twice her size with moves she learned in earlier wars. I fired a human weapon for the first time. I missed. Serrano faced the Prime Hunter in a corridor. The hunter moved with speed and terrible grace. Serrano lunged into the blade to get inside its reach. He took a wound, deep, and the hunter fell. Serrano lay still, breathing shallow. When the Prime Hunter died and its elite units were shattered, the Kitten Empire made their calculation. Farah was not worth the cost. Their ground forces retreated. Their ships withdrew. We did not cheer. We buried our dead, human and Valari alike. Patterson, a young human engineer, had died. His name was carved alongside Valari names in a memorial garden planted where the archive had stood. Una chose plants that could survive anything. These plants are like friendship between worlds, she said. They shouldn't exist, but they do. In the months that followed, Una's fungi began to green the dust. Hybrid strains took hold in the fields. Corpses of our elegant biodomes were replaced with ugly, humming hydroponics that fed people. Children learned to play human games and to read Valari poetry. Serrano, scarred and slow with a mending shoulder, taught defense and built growing frames with me in the garden. He told me why they come, because they know what death looks like. They have seen it, and because they have, they refuse to let others die if they can help it. 20 years later, I walked through that field, once gray, now golden with hybrid grain, beside Leon, now an elder. I remembered what I wrote the day they arrived. We asked for surgeons. They sent us butchers. Do I still believe it? Yes. We were already on the table, festering. We needed someone who could cut away rot so healthy tissue could grow. They bled for strangers who became family. They were brutal and tender in the same motion. They taught us to act. We taught them restraint. This is my final entry as chronicler of the old Valari. We are not dead. We are altered. We are survivors. We are fighters. We are family. The stars once called them death wielders. We call them family. Grandmother Una would have liked that. She would have said, when someone calls for help, answer. When someone falls, lift them. When the dark comes, light a match, even if the match burns you.